Welcome back. I'm Rachel Hardy, and this is Emergent Resilience, Paths to Healing and Creative Power, empowering you in your spiritual connection and creative source energy, and connecting you deeper into your innate capacity for healing and transformation. After a bit of a break from podcasting, I'm back with a very personal and vulnerable share, because it involves some pretty profound stuff that's happened for me recently. And I'm also going to be talking today about calming your mind in meditation or spiritual practice, especially when there seems to be really strong resistance. We want to consider how trauma may be involved, and I'm going to give you 4 keys that have changed the game for me as someone who, for much of my life, had a major challenge with coming out of the head and just letting the thoughts go. Now, sometimes people are surprised to learn this about me. I do somatic work. I'm all about the body and what you feel, and I'm constantly asking my clients, where do you feel that in your body, and guiding them to drop out of the mind. And so people are sometimes surprised to learn that this was a major challenge for me for much of my journey, much of my life. I've been on a spiritual path since I was quite young, and I'd say for the first couple of decades easily, this was a significant challenge. And while it's an ongoing practice, I'm going to talk about how I've significantly changed that and the specific practices that have helped me. I'm also going to put a mild bit of a trigger warning, though I'm not going to talk about anything graphic. I am going to be talking about the topic of childhood sexual abuse. So I want you to just have an awareness of that as we jump in. So, to start with the present, a month ago, I got on a plane, flew to Palm Springs, visited a wolf sanctuary, and went on a very powerful retreat with my amazing coach and mentor, Jennifer Longmore, and a particularly badass group of women who held a level of energetic space and support for me during this retreat that allowed some intense and life-changing healing to happen. And as part of this, some events from my childhood came to light that had been repressed, even though I knew at some level that it was there. And what came to light involved sexual and other abuse when I was very young. Now, I'd had an awareness through things I'd been told that some kind of abuse had likely happened. I was told, oh, we don't know exactly what might have happened, but you were left alone with this person, and this person was a pedophile and someone who had a long history of abusing children. So I've held this awareness since I was 19, and I'm 49 now, that there was stuff that probably happened when I was very young that I'd completely blocked out. Now, the truth is that what I'd been told maybe happened was actually only the very tip of a giant iceberg, and that what I experienced was actually much more extensive and pervasive and more horrific than I could have imagined. I won't go further into this, as the intention here is not to shock, but to say that everything that happened set me up very young to hold this extreme internal pain, as well as a hatred towards myself and a desire to erase myself from existence, a feeling that I didn't belong here and I didn't want to be here. Now, if you know my whole healing story, which I tell in the first couple episodes of this podcast, it all actually makes a lot of sense. I mean, the pieces fit. This was simply a filling in of, for me, of some details of the unknown behind the very deep healing journey I'd already gone through and that this whole life has been for me. So I'd actually done a ton of the healing of the energy and the emotion around all of this already. I just didn't know the details or the facts. So since this came to light a month ago, I've been in a pretty profound space of clearing and releasing the deeper layers of energy on all the levels around this. Now, this past week, as I was working in the Akashic Records, I was shown something interesting about my childhood and about how I survived what I was carrying. So I was an advanced kid. I was reading at age 3. By early elementary school, when we took those standardized tests, I was testing out at beyond high school levels as far as reading and writing skills. Most of what I did as a young kid was just read books. And what I was shown this past week in the records was that the reason my mind developed so rapidly in certain ways at such a young age was actually a means of survival. I survived by having the worlds of my mind and reading books to go into. And this is how I took myself out of the sometimes unbearable internal experience of being inside my own existence. And so that's why at 5, I was spending hours of my day reading Tolkien instead of doing more typical 5-year-old things. And don't get me wrong, there was a love for reading as well, but it was also a very necessary survival strategy that got me through. And it was because of the very intense need for this that these skills developed so rapidly. And I also saw that this early reliance on the mind as the way to cope with the unbearable led to what was for me a long and challenging journey in letting go of the mind as governor, of letting go of the thoughts from running the show, especially when I would meditate, because this had been wired in so early and it had been about survival. That was the space that was safe for me. Existing in my body was not. And so I share this, of course, as just one example of how much could potentially be under the surface if you're working with deepening your spiritual practice and connection, working with deepening your intuition, with calming and centering your mind, and finding that even with your best intentions and consistent mindful practice, the mind is still resisting at perhaps a very, very strong level. And this came to my attention in part because it's something that's been very up lately for some of my clients, is this dance between the mind and the spiritual gifts, or between the mind and the intuitive knowing. It's been up really strongly lately. And I know that this is in part because they're being called to a greater level of awakening with their spiritual gifts. And when we go deeper or bigger with anything, we naturally run into whatever has been previously stopping us from going deeper or bigger. And sometimes and often that thing is trauma. So if you're someone who feels like, in spite of all the work and all the practice, why is the meditation, the mindfulness practice, feeling so constantly challenging? Or maybe due to trauma being kicked up recently, it might suddenly feel more challenging to connect and channel. So I want to offer that, first of all, rather than thinking it's not working or there's something wrong with you, it can be so freeing to recognize that, number one, nothing's wrong with you, and to identify that there may be trauma beneath the surface that's affecting your ability to just let go. And if it's the case, for example, that using and relying on the mind has been part of a trauma response and a survival mechanism, which could look lots of different ways, it's possible that simply working with, say, releasing thoughts or dropping out of the mind or focusing on the breath or many typical approaches to meditation or mindfulness might not be as accessible for you without addressing the underlying trauma. Now, to make sure I'm being super clear, I'm definitely not saying there's not value to all of your mindfulness work that you've been practicing. And by the way, I hold extreme respect for all the meditation and mindfulness teachers out there, including the ones who have taught me and served me. Your work is invaluable. And also, it's so important to acknowledge that there may be a trauma piece that's wired in very deeply that can affect your ability to just let the thoughts go. So from that place, and with an intention of giving you very practical tools, as practical as we can get with this stuff that can be etheric, I want to share 4 keys that I've found in my journey of going from someone who was very ruled by the mind to learning to open to channel and receive and connect more and more deeply, including now practicing as an Akashic Records consultant and teacher, as well as an astrologer, which astrology is really just another form of channeling for me. So while this is an ongoing journey, let me give you the top keys, practices that have supported me in shifting this relationship with my mind, which ran the show for a very long time. And before we jump into these, I want to be clear that deeply addressing the trauma may be needed as well. In my experience, techniques or practices generally aren't enough to heal trauma. It's a much deeper journey that involves a combination of understanding what's happening in your body and mind, using very specifically targeted tools and practices for your unique nervous system, and most importantly, guidance and support in a safe space to guide you through resourcing as the energy of the trauma is cleared and released. So just to be clear, I'm not saying these practices I'm sharing right now are going to heal your trauma. You may need support to do that. But if you're on this path already, or you're exploring it and you want some first steps, I'm going to give you some very practical steps you can do in regards to your mindfulness, your spiritual practice, or channeling when it feels like the mind is getting in the way or interfering or doesn't want to let go. So, 4 keys to calming the mind to tap into your higher wisdom when working with trauma. First game changer for me is embracing the emotion that might be just beneath the surface. Because sometimes when the mind doesn't want to be still, it's because there's emotion going on that is kind of just below the level of conscious awareness that doesn't want to be felt, or that doesn't feel safe to be felt. And if due to trauma you've spent your life not feeling emotions, it's going to certainly feel scary to begin to feel this. The invitation here, working always in your window of tolerance, can you drop down into your emotional body and bring the attention to any physical sensations going on with any emotion that might be present? The physical sensations is a great way to tap into what is there on a body level. An emotion is happening on a body level. Emotions happen in your body. It's energy. So what is the texture, the shape, the feeling of whatever energy is happening that you might not recognize? You might not identify it. You might not be able to label it as an emotion right away. But can you sense the texture, the qualities, the shape or size of whatever you notice? Can you be with whatever's there, even if the mind doesn't understand it? And the key here is really dropping in and feeling it. Sometimes we might think we're feeling our feelings, and we're actually thinking about the feeling. It's a very different thing. So can you drop in and allow any emotions, sensations, to actually be a resting place for your mind? So you're in your meditation practice, the mind is going a little berserk, and can you drop down and drop the attention into resting in whatever is just underneath? Because again, the activity of the mind might be happening to kind of keep you above the feelings, because it's just not used to feeling them. And when you can safely feel the sensations of the feelings, as long as it's in your window of tolerance, it allows your system to feel that this isn't life-threatening. It's actually okay to be with those emotions and the sensations and the experience of the emotions. and truly being with the energy is going to allow it to move. So rather than just trying to calm the thoughts, check out what it's like to allow your attention to rest in any bits of emotion and just be with them, not doing anything with them, but noticing the sensations and allowing yourself to feel it as a place to rest your attention. Number 2, claiming your spiritual power. In trauma, your connection to yourself and your connection to your divine self is ruptured. And there can be a fear as a result of the greatness that you actually are, a fear of all you know. What if you decided, and yes, there is a level where it's a decision, what if you decided that it was okay and safe for you to be in your spiritual power? Because when trauma's been hiding beneath the surface, there may be this unconscious fear of how much you know and how powerful you actually are. And so the unconscious response is to contract back, and that might manifest as not wanting to know what you know, or an I don't know response, or not wanting to connect on some level to what's actually coming through. So this starts with a decision. And yes, there may be healing to be done around this as well. But there is ultimately a decision from you and from you alone that no one else needs to give you the permission to be in your power and to know what you know that you know. The fear can still be there. The feelings can all still be there. And you get to choose. And you get to choose again. Number 3 is about radical allowance for your uniqueness down to every last bit of your neurological wiring. Now, if you've hung out in my world at all, you know this is something I am really passionate about. Your nervous system is unique, and how it responds to stimuli and how it expresses itself is unique. And the interplay between your thoughts and emotions and somatic responses, this is all an expression of the fingerprint uniqueness of you. Can you feel into this for a moment with me, more than thinking it? Can you feel into this with me? What if all of the variance in your attention, all the places that you go, including the distractions, the sensations, the different stuff happening, including when you're meditating or you're in your spiritual practice, what if that was all a part of you? And the reason this is important is because it can be really easy to make ourselves wrong for how our meditation is not looking. And we can make ourselves wrong without even realizing we're doing it. It's like we get these ideas from somewhere, maybe from how it looks for someone else or from how somebody else talks about their experience meditating or channeling. And it should feel like this or look like this or have these qualities. And it can be easy, especially if there's a trauma history, to make ourselves wrong without even realizing we're doing it, and to shut down what's actually happening because it feels different than our mind is expecting or different than we think it's supposed to be. What if everything that was happening was all a part of who you are in this moment, your unique way of being in the world, and you are completely whole? You can continue to heal, to grow, to refine skills. But what if everything about how you operate, including when you're meditating or in your spiritual practice, how you receive information, the timing, the ways that it comes through, the ways that your body feels when it comes through, the wacky things your mind does, the information that comes through in ways you can't even describe. What if that was all a part of your unique gifts? You are completely whole and nothing's wrong. Starting from that place can provide a radical allowance for whatever's present in your experience. And remember, this can include sensations, images, thoughts, feelings, plus whatever is happening that you don't have words or concepts for. And the radical allowance of what's present gives us the foundation for opening to the next level, which is what I call radical openness. And this is number 4. And this one's an energetic state. I'm going to be partly transmitting this one energetically because it's a bit beyond words that I have. I'm going to invite you right now to allow your breath to easily deepen. Allow a couple easy, deeper breaths. And I'm going to invite you, if you choose, to put your attention on your crown chakra, the 7th chakra. And I'm going to invite you to consciously and intentionally open and clear that 7th chakra. And breathing deeply, moving your attention up to the 8th chakra. And I'll invite you to open and clear the 8th chakra. Feeling your seat on the seat, feeling the breath to continue to move deeply. Attention on the 9th chakra, just above. And allow the 9th chakra to open and clear. And moving the attention up to the 10th chakra, allowing it to open and clear. And to the 11th chakra, allowing it to open and clear. And to the 12th chakra, allowing it to open and clear, allowing your breath to drop in deeply, easily, fully, moving through your whole body, feeling yourself connected here in this present moment. And I'll invite you to place your attention on your connection, your radical state of openness to the divine. For me personally, I feel this as a kind of tearing up and a welling up emotionally as soon as I tap into that radically open state. It might look completely different for you, and that's that uniqueness factor. But the key here I want you to hear is that even if the mind is unsettled or bouncing or doing whatever it's doing, that it can become less about trying to calm the thoughts and instead about attention, more attention placed on this experience of radical openness and connection. And maybe, and hopefully this goes without saying, but when I say radical openness, you choose what you're being open to. Of course, it doesn't mean being open to all the energy in the world. You're choosing where you're placing the attention and what you're being radically open to. So whatever that experience is like for you, and noticing any sensations, images, emotions, even thoughts, feelings, or other experiences that you don't have words or concepts for, I'll invite you to place your attention on this radical openness. This is where the attention goes, and be the channel from that place. So breathing in, breathing deeply, feeling yourself here in the present. Those 4 keys again, embracing the emotion that may be lurking beneath the surface, claiming your spiritual power, radical allowance, radical openness. I'll invite you, as always, to explore what resonates with you. Thank you so much for joining me today. Please subscribe and share the podcast if this has been helpful for you. If you'd like to stay connected on social media, I'll drop some links into the podcast notes. And if you're interested in exploring further work together, I have limited availability for one-on-one work. If you're looking to heal and regulate your nervous system, for more calm and clarity and feeling good in your body, even when you're under stress, and also create that deeper connection to your intuition and spiritual gifts through clearing and releasing trauma that's been stored in the body. I'll drop some links in the notes about one-on-one work with me as well if you're interested in that, and you're welcome to get in touch with me through those links. Sending you all the love. Take great care.